Hey everybody, welcome to our very first set of notes for AP Human Geography. You do not actually have to take any handwritten notes today. You don't have to really write anything down. I just want to give you a really brief and basic overview of what actually is this human geography thing, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard the term geography, and when you think about geography, you're probably thinking about rivers and lakes and oceans and mountains and all that stuff. And that's great because that is geography. But we throw this human word in front of it, and suddenly we have a little bit different content. Okay, so we're going to get into what exactly it is that we're looking at here. Human geography is the study of how people have settled the places around them, right? How they've modified the world around them, and then the interactions that people have, whether that's short distance interactions, neighboring cities, neighboring countries, or also the interactions that we see at a global level. These days, it's so much easier to interact across the planet that we're so connected now, right? The United States has connections all around the world, whereas, if you would have gone back 100 years, 200, 300 years, you didn't really have those kind of connections, at least not to the extent that we do these days. So, what actually is the difference between physical geography and human geography? Here's just kind of the things you might think of when you um, think about geography. It's physical geography, so that it is those landforms. It is the climate, the weather, the atmosphere, the soil, the animals and plants and everything that we have. Those are the things that would be there even if humans never existed as a thing, right? If we were never on this planet, these things still would. And so you think about that differentiation, right? The things that would exist in this planet, even if people didn't exist. On the other hand, these are things that make it human geography, right? Human geography being the study of our population, the spread of our population, the growth of our population, where people have moved to and why, um, where they've settled, the economic systems that we've established, the methods of transportation and communication that we have invented and created over the years. It also involves our culture, our religion, our language, our customs, our beliefs, all of those things that make us people, all of those things that make us members of a large global community, agriculture. There's so many things that make up human geography, right? Because the the landscape and the landforms that would be here regardless, sometimes those things help us as humans, and sometimes they get in the way. And if they get in the way, it means we have to do something about it, right? If there's a lake that we don't want to be there, we can get rid of a whole lake. We have the technology, right? If we want to get to a part of the world that was never explored, right, we find a way to do that. People live everywhere these days, right? You can live in the middle of a desert if you wanted to. You could live in the Arctic if you needed. And so the dynamic of how people have interacted with their environment around them is what makes this class a specific human geography class. Okay? So this class is going to be broken up into 7 main units. Um, we'll get to more specific as we get to each of those topics, but we're starting out just what is geography? Um, how do we use maps and other tools to understand the world around us better? Um, what are the main geographic concepts? That is what we're going to be starting out with. Then we're going to go and look at where people are at in the world, where they're going, where have they been, how is population increasing in some parts of the world and decreasing in other parts of the world. What's going on with that? When we get into Unit 3, we'll be looking at culture. So that's everything from religion and language to customs to housing styles to clothing and dance and music and all those fun things. Um, that's what we'll look at for that. When we get into Unit 4, we're looking at political geography, so the trade relations and the political relations, conflicts or peace or negotiations or treaties and things like that. Unit 5 is the food unit. We'll look at farming and agriculture types throughout the planet, see what different agricultural styles are found in different places in the world, and then also where does our food come from, right? Um, if you ate some chocolate this morning, you know, we're going to find out where that came from. Um, Unit 6 is about industry and economic development. Which parts of the world are super developed? Which parts of the world kind of are lagging behind, and why? And then industry, right? What is the industry of Russia? What does industry look like in Africa? What does it look like in the Great Lakes region of the United States? So what are these businesses looking like around the world, and what is the connection and interaction with all of that? And then lastly, we will be ending the course with a look at urban studies and seeing how cities sprouted up throughout the world. Why do cities happen where they do, and why do people move to urban areas when they do? So we're going to look at the kind of planning that goes into that process as well. So it's a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot in this course, but um, it's broken up pretty nicely, and it all kind of flows together. So if you don't understand Unit 1, it's not going to be great, because Unit 1 feeds into Unit 2, and Unit 2 feeds into Unit 3, and so on and so forth. So it all kind of flows together. The concepts, sometimes they're kind of, you don't feel like they're related, but then they end up being pretty connected overall, because there's a lot of themes that overall tie the class together. So, like I mentioned before, geography can be connected back to everything. Think about what you ate throughout the day. Right? You don't have to write any of this down, but I want you to just think about what you ate. Right? Maybe you didn't eat anything today, but think about what you ate this week. Right? Did you have chocolate? Did you have coffee? Did you have fuego takis? What have you been eating? You can think about where did that come from, right? Because it doesn't just show up at Walmart. It doesn't just show up at Woodman's. It has to have come from somewhere, right? And a lot of the food that you eat has had a very, very lengthy journey. Um, think about coffee. Coffee comes from different parts of the world. Some of your coffee is coming from Ethiopia. Some of it comes from Indonesia. A lot of it might come from like Colombia or Brazil. But you might not realize, you take for granted when you go to Starbucks, they have your coffee on tap there, but it wasn't grown out back behind the Starbucks in Beloit, right? It was grown potentially thousands and thousands of miles away. Okay, so it's key to understand kind of those relationships that we have with other countries to enable the ability to trade and get goods and things from all over the world. Maybe you had chocolate, like I mentioned before, right? Chocolate. If you look at this map, it's fairly similar to the map I just looked at. Chocolate and coffee are both different types of beans, and they're both grown in the same, like similar climate types, right? You look at, it's near the equator, right? The equator would pass like right through here. That equatorial zone is going to be where you'll find your chocolate. So, I mean, just thinking about those type of things, where we get our food from, that's just one small example, because we always like talking about food. It kind of guides our entire life, right? I plan my day around what am I going to eat and when, and it's great. But we don't often think about where did we actually get this stuff from. But we could apply this to literally everything in our daily lives. Where does your TV come from? The clothing that you're wearing, where is that coming from? Your shoes, where are they made? Where is your phone built? Right? And so it's really important that we understand the interactions between different parts of the world to have a better understanding of where everything comes from, right? So this class is going to get into a lot of different concepts, a lot of different vocab terms, um, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed throughout this class, because it's going to be a lot, right? There's going to be a lot of different terminology and things like that, different concepts, but I want you to make sure that you're reaching out if you ever have any questions, because if you get stuck on something and you don't quite understand it, rather than just being like, well, too bad, this is the only time I need to know it, I want you to ask those questions. I want to be able to clarify it for you, because something that comes up in Unit 1 very well could come up again in Unit 5 or Unit 7. And so I don't want you to feel like you're getting behind or anything. So anyway, this is just a set of intro notes. Again, you didn't need to take any notes. You don't need to do anything with this. I just want you to have this basic introduction to the class. And like I said, talk to me anytime if you have any questions. So have a good one.